That's right, we are going to go over 5 tips from Charli XCX. Welcome to Whisky and Synths. My name's Dave, and I'm well excited to have you here on the show today. Now, Charli XCX's album Brat was almost unavoidable this summer, and it's the kind of thing that would normally repel me a bit when it's like everywhere. But I actually took a chance on it because I heard it had electro clash inspiration, 2000s electro and club music inspiration. I thought that could be quite cool, and I ended up loving it. So today we're going to take a look at this album, see what we can learn from it, and we're going to do it in a video podcast style. This is for intermediate to advanced music producers who don't mind kind of podcast chat kind of video, and then take those tips and use it in your own production. And if you want to dig deeper, I've got the links to the sources where I discovered all this information from as well, if you want to dig deeper after this. So let's get into the first tip. So the first tip is all about minimalism. So this album, they wanted it to be, in their words, deceptively simple, like a few sounds per track to build confident spaces and then foreground the lyrics, which I liked, because a big classic mistake music producers make is overstuffing their tracks with too many sounds, too many instruments and all that, and then rather than creating a powerful mix, it actually creates like a cluttered, sludgy mix. So this whole minimalistic attitude is really good. They actually said, no clutter production were the words, and they were actually inspired by Sophie, who's a producer who sadly passed away but was friends with Charli XCX, and also Peaches as well, another artist that's totally amazing, and F the Pain Away, if you know that track. This kind of like minimalism that just is raw energy and just leaps out the speakers, even though it's not like layered with loads of things. Allows the lyrics to shine as well. They actually said muting stuff is really important, like muting elements and seeing what it's like without it, and then being kind of brutal if it works without it, take it out. So this kid, and that is a classic adage, in sound engineering and music production. It's not what you put in, it's what you take out, is a classic reference on this kind of minimalistic approach. And I think it applies to loads of different kinds of music as well. And the other thing they liked was kind of minimalistic in their choice of sounds as well. So rather than having loads of different sounds and synths and drum parts per track on the album, they actually thought, well, let's reoccur some of the same sounds across the tracks, and it gives this album this cohesive feel. And it also, they were inspired by DJ music, so it gives it this circularity, they said, and it almost feels like a DJ set from beginning to end. And I thought it was quite a cool way to think of an album, especially an album that's inspired by club culture. So minimalism in your production and your mixes is worth thinking about, and not overstuffing your mixes. And if you like that kind of thing, the Churches actually also said that. You might have seen my other podcast video on that before. So other artists do recommend it as well. Let's get to the next tip. So what about the drums on the album, the drum production? Well, they said because it's inspired by club music, they wanted those familiar classic sounds, big 808s, 909 hi-hats. Oh, you know the sounds that give so much energy and familiarity. They're part of our musical language, these sounds. So you should never feel sad or worried or guilty about using these sounds in your productions. But what you can do is something that they did is, for example, on one of the tracks, they had like a growly sound on the upbeat of it, which I thought was quite cool. And it almost sounds like a saw cutting wood, like, and it just happened. It wasn't really loud in the mix, but it was audible in amongst the other drum sounds. And they made that from a Pulsar 23 analog drum machine, which I've actually not seen before. So, let me know in comments if you've seen that, used it. But the thing is, you could use any synth or drum machine or a sample from a sound pack. Just the idea is add some more unusual sounds into the mix with classic drum machine sounds. A combination of familiarity and new is quite often a recipe for success as well. So that was how they used the drum sounds, and they actually kept the drum tracks really simple as well. Nothing too complicated, nothing too weird, so people could really groove to it, and it let like the vocals and the chords and everything else float on top of it. And also this like knocky kind of almost put a donk on it style kick. It was used a lot as well, which was quite they had this whole idea of the kind of Brat concept, and they thought that was quite Brat like, you know, to almost like in your face kind of thing. And maybe we'll talk about the whole concept for the album on a different podcast, because I learned so much about Charli XCX researching this. This might just be a part 1 out of 2. All right, what is the next tip out of our 5 tips today? Our next tip is on creating synth chords. So they actually use Serum to create the synth chords. However, it's quite expensive, you know, maybe not accessible to everyone. So you could use any like synth plugin or VST to create some cool synth chords. Don't let that hold you back. But if you got Serum, that might help. And here's some of the key things they said when they're doing the synth chords. So it's got to be like reverbed, delay, detuned oscillators as well. And that's like, you know, if you got oscillator 1 set to something, you'll like slightly detune it out and it creates this thick sound. Or you could use unison mode on a synth that does help, kind of do a similar sort of effect to make it sound large and big. And also lots of filtering controlled by an envelope or LFO. This is really important. And they said all these things, a lot of the parameters were controlled by LFOs, which is a low frequency oscillator, if you've not heard of it. It basically kind of, instead of automating something by drawing in the automation lanes, it almost does it for you in the background. And when it's like that, it's called modulation, not automation. And that is good for getting these moving chord sounds like whoa, and putting it on loads of parameters. So if you're on Ableton, there's a Max for Live LFO kind of plugin thing. You just drop that on and then you can link it to like any parameter on any other plugins. It's really cool. I'm sure in other DAWs there's stuff like that as well. And as far as the chords go, let's talk about, as well as the music production, talk about the music theory. They actually said the top note of the chords is quite static. So if you imagine you've got a chord, I guess maybe that's like one of the main notes that occurs across lots of the chords in the chord pattern. So you try and keep that static, and then the notes change underneath that. And I thought it was quite a cool trick, and it won't always work depending on the chord pattern, but it could work. Say you've got playing D minor and you go to F, you could have like the A note just like held there for a bit, stuff like that. So worth trying out for sure. Right, next thing. So before we get on to our 4th out of 5 tips for Charli XCX, I just want to offer you a chance to finish that damn track. Because if you're like me and other producers, you've probably got a hard drive full of unfinished tracks, like thousands. So I've got a free resource to help you finish that damn track. It's a challenge. You just get 10 emails from me, and each one has a little trick you do every single day, and it'll get you from an 8-bar loop to a self-mastered track. And in the email, it kind of gets delivered as a little PDF. You get like a goal for the session, then how to do it in a sort of checklist, and then you get like the action, what you have to do. And it's only going to be about 30 minutes a day work, which I'm guessing you probably do about that already on your music production, right? So you're not going to do more than you already do. So 30 minutes a day with all these tips and artist tips chucked in at the end as well for extra inspiration. I've chucked in a few bonus videos in there as well. So if this challenge, finish that damn track, sounds good to you, click below, sign up with your email. It's a completely free one. And if you don't like it, unsubscribe at any time, whatever. It's cool. I get it. It might not be for everyone, but I think there's people out there this is going to help, and you are one of them. I'm sure of it. So yeah, I'm just here to help people finish their music, get out there, get fulfillment, and enjoy it along the way. So if this free resource helps anyone, cool. If you're not interested, that's fine. Let's get back to the podcast. So the next tip is about being really inventive and innovative, or in their words, super bratty, which I quite liked. So they would do things like put echo on the bass, which, you know, as a lot of engineers and sound engineers and producers were like, no, never do that. They would do that. They use stock Logic plugins quite a lot, and a lot of people are like, no, don't do that. So it isn't exactly super inventive, but it's kind of going against conventional wisdom, I guess. And also, almost everything in some tracks is slightly out of tune with each other, but it kind of works. And this inspiration comes from like a lot of 90s dance music was pieced together with samples, a lot of sampling and a lot of synths, and a lot of people were new to music who hadn't done much music theory before, and these key clashes happen, but they just trusted their ear, and if it sounded good, then they'd done it. So trust your ears, not your eyes. Trust your ears, not always your music theory as well. Although, to be fair, music theory has its place and is important. But if it sounds good, just do it, and it can lead to something inventive. And they also said even this extended to the length of a song, this like kind of, I would say kind of innovative or like, you know, bolshy, gallus, as we'd say in Scotland, attitude, or bratty attitude, as they would say, is the length of the song. Sometimes it felt way too short, or sometimes it felt way too long, the outro. But if they liked it, they were like, whatever, we're doing it. And I quite like that attitude as well. It's almost a bit like a punky attitude in a way. So I definitely agree with that. And, you know, they would sometimes in the outro be like, is it too long? And they'd be like, nah, make it longer and take the snare out. Stuff like that. So I like that. So, yeah, don't be afraid of being a brat yourself. This is one of the funny tips I've found, but I actually think it's worth mentioning. Right, let's go to the next one. So, the last tip I've got for you from Charli XCX is location informs things. So they've got a song called Apple, and the instrumental for it was made on the way to Sweden on a plane, computer, you know, DAW headphones. And they said that this instrumental might not have been the way it was if they weren't flying on the way to Sweden, because they were thinking of like classic Swedish pop and synth pop bands, you know, going all the way back to the days of ABBA, and then you got all the modern Scandinavian pop bands and synth pop artists the last like 10, 20 years, and it really influenced it. So we don't all have the luxury of world travel to inform our music, but hopefully you get a chance to go on day trips sometimes, or maybe a holiday once, twice a year, maybe, who knows. Hopefully you get to do that. And don't be afraid to make music when you're there, even if it's just on your phone, like a beat on your phone using some phone music app. Or, you know, don't always think it's good to take your computer on holiday with you. You don't get bogged down in work. You're meant to switch off. But if you do take some music making thing, like, I don't know, a wee OK oscillator, like the thing that I've got up there, or some sort of music making thing, probably phone's going to be the best. A few apps. You might make something in that environment that's really inspired by that environment, then you take it back. And of course, lyrics you can do that with as well. So I love that, how location does inform your music. So don't be afraid to let that happen and maybe engineer it so it can happen in your own music. All right. So everyone, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Whisky and Synths. Like I said, I'm Dave. My mission is to help people like you get fulfillment, joy, fun out of making music and get your best tracks out there. And remember, if you want to finish that damn track, the good one that's lurking in your hard drive in amongst the other 900 ones, I've got a challenge, remember, 10 days, 10 steps, only 30 minutes a day, get from an 8-bar loop to a fully finished track, self-mastered and everything, the easy way. It's just all the tips you need, and in checklists, you just follow the points and you'll get it out there. And then it's even able to be considered for release on Tonic Note Records, my record label. It's been going for 7 years now. We do compilations every year. We're going to do even more once people start submitting more to us who've went through the Finish That Damn Track challenge. It's a free challenge, but there is only 5 spaces a week on it. So click below now to join. And like I said, if you don't like it, just unsubscribe. No worries. But if you do like it, hopefully you're the kind of person I'm here to help out. And yeah, leave a comment if you like these videos. I'm doing my best for them. You know, the podcast style is not for everyone. I get it. But there's loads of other great people on the internet doing the video tutorials and all that. So I thought, why not? I'll try to do something different for you guys. So I do appreciate your ears or your eyeballs or both if you're watching it or if you're just listening to it. I want to say thanks again. And there's loads more on the channel. But maybe it's time to switch off YouTube and go into your DAW or get your synth or your guitar or whatever and start making some tunes. Thanks so much. And I want to say thanks to all the artists that I've actually featured on my channel, you know, like for giving all the interviews and stuff where I've got my research from. It's really generous of them to share their process as well, and hopefully me distilling it down like this is helping you out as well. So yeah, thanks. Also, thanks if you're watching to the end. This podcast, I'll share something too. It was really hard for me to make today. Like I sat down, it was probably like 2 hours trying to set up, and then like just kept trying to do it, and it wasn't happening. And then I thought I'd go walk the dogs, and that was a bit of a disaster because one of them didn't want to come, and then the door went slammed and didn't hurt one but scared one, and I was like, oh, and I was just like, mate, like, this isn't happening, but I got there in the end, and hopefully it's turned out a good episode in the end. And if you're here, yeah, I'll save these kind of rants and personal things to the end, just to catch up. You know, I'm in Kent in the UK. Message us if you want to get in touch. There's loads of good music going on here. I occasionally can bounce up to London, you know, and if you want a mix kind of evaluated by me, or like, what am I trying to say, mix feedback, or a feedback on your song, or anything like arrangement, anything like that, I'll do that for free, because that's part of what I do as well. You know, I do one-to-one tuition, do courses and stuff, but I offer loads of free stuff to help as well. So literally you can send a demo to your private SoundCloud, usually people do, and I can just give you some bullet points and what I think, you know, it could help with. And, you know, the thing is with that, you could always disagree, and that's fine, but, you know, just having an extra set of ears on it sometimes can help. You know, I need it on my own stuff too. So yeah, thanks so much. Appreciate your time, guys. We'll catch you later. This has been Whisky and Synths. Bye. Whisky and Synths.